Tres Golpes Tv, Padre, Hijo y Espíritu Santo. Welcome back to the channel. Today, we have somebody very special today. We finally have our first female on this channel, and now it's about time, right? Yeah. All right. So today we're gonna have somebody that is special to somebody else that I know. You know, my boy Abe. But today we have, his lovely girlfriend. I got her name again. Andrea, welcome. Nice to finally have you here. How does it feel to be the first female here?
It's a lot of pressure. It's a little intimidating, a little bit.
I mean, you shouldn't feel that way, but it's good.
Yeah, it's good.
Something new. Is this your first time doing this?
A podcast, yeah.
Oh wow. Okay, so let's take you easy, right?
Yeah.
All right. So what do you do now? I know that you go to college and stuff like that. So what are you going to school for?
I'm trying to get a degree in psychology.
Okay.
And I'm getting my minor in public health, so that eventually I can go to grad school for clinical psych.
Okay.
Yeah.
That is exciting. I mean, the question is I'm an IT major. For us, it took us 4 years to graduate and so on. Mm-hmm. So how is that long career? Same thing, 4 years?
For my bachelor's, 4 years. And then when I go to grad school, it depends on the program. If I choose to do my master's or PsyD.
Okay.
So it can range from 2 to 5 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
So after college, what's happening? So after you're going to pursue that career, right?
Yeah. I want to be able to do that.
Okay, cool. As a female, in the sense of so you're Christian, right? Correct?
Yes.
Okay. So what type of struggles do you have as a female in the sense of I know there's so much we're vulnerable to so many things in this world, right? And obviously we struggle with fashion, what we can wear, what we cannot wear, what we can do, what we cannot do. So as a female, as in your perspective, what do you feel that you struggle with?
I struggle a lot with friendships. Okay. Because obviously in college you make a lot of friendships through class, a lot of them through parties, social circles and stuff. Mm-hmm. And I find myself kind of having to isolate myself a bit because of the things that my friends want to do that I necessarily, due to my, not religion, but my moral standards and what I believe in, I should not do. So it can be a pretty isolating environment.
I think it's not bad because you recognize what you do and the reason why you do it. And it's not bad too, 'cause I know some, in the sense of youth today, it's okay, I'm Christian, but I want to be part of something cool,
Yeah.
And there's some I feel like that's a struggle that all of us go through sometimes, And it's not bad that you go through, obviously. We're human. We're not robots. We're not perfect, yada, yada. But it's always good that we can recognize that, we're here, but we're not from here,
Yeah.
Which is very cool. Mm-hmm. And it's nice to actually recognize that as a female, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. What are things that... were you born and raised in church?
No, actually.
So what made you come to church?
My parents.
Okay, cool.
I mean, my parents, they grew up with the knowledge of religion.
Okay.
Because, they were brought to Catholic church and stuff like that. And then they eventually kind of separated from that when they came to America. Okay. And I always was put in situations that I was aware of God. Okay. So I was in a Catholic school at one point for middle school. Not even just because my parents wanted me to, but because I grew up in Newark. So private school is kind of the way to go.
Yeah, especially you live in Newark.
Yeah.
Hey, I know a lot of people live in Newark, so I know the stories.
Yeah, so eventually, I think it was just one day my dad randomly came home and he was like, let's go to church. Because he does the tire business. Okay. And at the time he owned a tire shop that was, well, he didn't own it, but the owner went to the church that I go to now. Okay. And he just invited him to church. He was like, you want to come to church? My dad came home. He was like, we're going to church. I didn't even have a dress or anything to wear. I was like, okay.
Well, what's great about being a Christian, though? We accept all type of people. There's no rule you have to come dressed a certain way. Hey, this is your first time coming here. We have to, accept you with our arms open. Because I feel like when you go to church, you want to go for that experience, You shouldn't feel like, no, dress a certain way, I can't go to church now. Yeah. When the time comes, you'll start learning. They'll teach you the rules and whatnot. And then, then after that, that's your decision. Yeah. You said that your parents, when they came over, what's your ethnicity?
I'm from Honduras.
Okay, so you were born raised here, or you were born raised over there?
I was born there, but I was raised here.
Okay, cool. That's dope. At least you're cultured, you know.
That's
amazing though. But it's kind of nice to know that by your parents, you're kind of introduced to this.
Yeah, it helped a lot.
So in the sense of how old are you now?
20.
20 years of your life, how do you see yourself in the sense of like, are you growing spiritually? You finally understand the reason why this is a good idea for you? Like,
well, I've had some years in church. They brought me to church when I was 12, so I was still primarily very young. Okay. But as I grew older, they kind of gave me that space to obviously still be Christian, but kind of make my own decisions on what I think is right and wrong. Okay. Because there has just been way too many experiences where you're kind of forced this ideology, or like even just people's ideas of what you should be rather than like the Bible's or God's, like, and it was just way too much at one point. I would break myself to be perfect, and there were still people that thought it wasn't good enough. Wow. So really? Yeah, it was a lot.
That's crazy.
Especially for like a growing female. That's another thing that's like something I struggle with as a female. Yeah. In, you know, the Christian world, and like in just society in general. Just there's just so much that they put on you. Yeah. And there's so much expectations on you, way more than like, let's say, the next person. Yeah. And
it's crazy because I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I feel like this is in general, like outside of church, I feel there's so many rules on just the female. And then the day it's like, aren't we all equal? Like, we should all have the same rules. We should all have like be in the same platform. Because at the end of the day, nobody's more spiritual than somebody else. Exactly. And then the Bible definitely says, you know, spiritual que se fije más, santifícase más, you know? Yeah. So it's like, that's something that I feel like, you know, I could relate to. Like, also me as a musician, I don't know what it is. People being musicians, we're always looked on very strongly harder. Yeah. Like, it's like, bro, I'm the same member as other ones here. The only difference is that I play music and I'm here at church, and obviously we have like, you know, I could say a ranking or something, but it doesn't make me more than everybody else, you know? Yeah, like ministries in church you are scrutinized to the T. You can't do one little thing wrong because it is over for your testimony, for your reputation. It's insane. Like, and it's crazy because it's like, I understand we're trying to mark, like, we're seen as like the example to follow. Yeah. That kind of makes sense. I understand it, but it's also like, we're human. It's like, for example, if you were a pastor's child, right? Mm-hmm. And then okay, he's your pastor because obviously you attend the church, you pastors. But at the end of the day, that's still your father. At the end of the day, when you go home, that's your daughter. You shouldn't treat her in the way we're like, you know?
Yeah, and they forget that too. They forget that there's a fine line between like what they're expecting from you in church and being a human. Yeah, definitely. They don't like I'm saying they as a general sense because I'm not gonna blame like the building because what makes the church is obviously the congregation. Yeah. And so, as a whole, the congregation really does do that. They scrutinize you.
Was there an experience in your life that happened to you?
Oh, yeah. Oh, my gosh. When I was growing up in that time, from like age... I think they really started paying attention to me when I got into the music ministry. Okay. And when I started singing, they really like got on top of me, as well as my parents. My dad especially. He really cared about like reputation to protect me and stuff like that. Which, to this day, I can definitely understand. At the time, I did not. I understand.
There's so many rules I was on my head. I was born raised in church, right? So I didn't have that experience of people who like transitioned to church, where like they were so used to the world, and it's like, okay, I'm a Christian now I have rules to follow, right? I never had like that experience before, but I always had that thing like, yo, you gotta be careful. Make sure you know by yourself when you're in certain locations. Make sure you're not this location just because you might not do anything wrong, but somebody who doesn't know you, who knows you, may think you're involved with something.
Yeah, don't be alone with this person.
Yeah, and it's like now I'm more of that kind of understand the reason why they said it. But at the moment, I was like, man, I'm just trying to live life. Like, what's going on?
Yeah, and it's a lot for a kid because we're obviously still kids, but like at the time we were even more of a kid, and they were putting so much like pressure on us when we just want to. There was a time where we were trying to get to know God, and like me trying to get to know the ministry, trying to like incorporate myself more in it because I'm extremely introverted. I still, to this day, have immense stage fright.
We're still, for me, it happened in a sense like now, the way I look at it, every single time I feel nervous, I know it's real. Yeah. If I don't feel nervous, I feel like I'm just there just to be there.
Oh, you read my mind. I have literally said this before, where there was a point in church where like, I was so used to it that when I would go up to sing, I wouldn't feel nervous anymore. And then eventually God like was like, yeah, we're not gonna do that. Yeah. And he like had to give me a time where I wasn't in the ministry anymore and I had to like take time to myself and like all that stuff. And now I'm back in it and it's like the same thing, like nervous.
It's good though because that reminds me like, okay, as long as we stay humble, we know we're good with that. once our ego takes in place, and then you think that you're the only thing here is this in the world, and everybody else, everything goes downhill.
Yeah,
you know?
And he won't hesitate to humble you.
Exactly.
God will never hesitate to humble you.
You know, the Bible says like, Dios va a traer con cuerdas de amor, right?
Yeah.
Because God knows how we human, we obviously gonna sin and stuff like that, but He tries to like correct you with love first.
Yeah.
Time's gonna pass by where you're gonna be like, okay, you're not coming back, lovely. I can go harshly now. That's gonna be really, really, really like, oh my God, I tried to listen before, but now, you know, it's understandable.
Yeah.
In the sense of like you right now, I know that you're part of Haven. Mm-hmm. You also, I know that you are, what's it called? You also write songs for them, right? Like with them. Yeah. So how has that been experience for you in the sense of like, how did it start?
It actually started at one point when I was in one of my other churches, and this pastor had prophesied to me that I was gonna like write songs and all that stuff. That's cool. And I had told, like, in my head, I was like, there's no way. I'm so sorry, God, but there's no way. I have no creative bone in my body like that. And then when Haven started, Abraham brought All My Heart to me and was like, this is a song I wrote and stuff. And I just saw, like, I just kept seeing the writing process through him and what he would do and, like, how he would do it. And one day he was just like, hey, help me write the song. And it was, like, half done. And I was like, I don't think I can. I mean, I can help you proofread it. And then we just started throwing stuff, like, just on the table. And it came very naturally.
I mean, that song, I don't know if it's been for everybody else, but for me, that song was like a before and after pandemic. Like, that created literally a before and after in my life. It was like, yo, the whole world stopped. But this song, it's like it made us remember, like, oh, my heart, you know? Like, we worship God, but do it with all your heart. Don't do it halfway. So that song was definitely like impacting to me. Also told Abe in one of the first interview that I gave this song to somebody to listen to. Until this day, he still talks about it. You know? Wow. So it was amazing. You guys did amazing with that song. So,
oh, glory God.
Guys, you know? Props to you guys, definitely. I'm asking a couple questions in the sense of like, what is it, like 2 or 3 questions? But let's say, for example, like a bucket list. What bucket list do you have that you want to do or you plan to do that you haven't done?
With Haven or in general?
It could be both.
With Haven, definitely. This is gonna be funny to people who know me, but to finally attend a worship night, because anytime we have a worship night, I can never be there because my parents live in Texas. Okay. So I live in college. Okay. So usually the worship nights happen right when I'm supposed to be back at home.
Oh man.
So that's on my bucket list, to be on a worship Haven night and actually participate. In general, I think it would be to skydive.
You know what's crazy? I say I'm not afraid of heights, but I haven't tried something that makes me fear the heights. So I'm like, that isn't my bucket list. But I'm like, bro, I'm talking now that I'm strong. But I feel like the day it happens, I'm like, yo, put me back in the ground.
Yeah,
thing,
because it's bigger than you.
Yeah,
you know?
definitely. For example, in the Bible, obviously we read the Bible, right? What verse that you feel that it's like yours, like it's something personal that I read this verse every single time and it's like it hits home?
That is such a good question. It's actually from this song that I used to be in the dance ministry. Okay. And so we did this song that was based on like a whole verse. Okay. I can't tell you like what book it is on the top of my head. Oh, yeah. But it's like, I'm gonna say it in Spanish, so I'm sorry to the English speakers. But it's like los que miraron a él fueron alumbrados y toda vergüenza de su rostro fue librado, or something like that.
I think exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Don't forget, like, comment, share, and subscribe. This is also a Spanish platform, right? So obviously you can have Spanglish, English, you know, it's whatever. But don't feel confused, you know? Aquí sale de todo lenguaje menos chino, all that stuff, right? Until I learn it, okay? But I definitely know what verse you talked about. We'll definitely look it up. I feel like I do know what you're talking about, though. It's just, there's so many verses in my head for me to put like
it's somewhere around like either Psalms or Proverbs, one of those two. But that verse is
Psalms
so
and Proverbs
good.
is such good 2 books. Because I feel like Proverbs is like, in a sense, teaching us examples what to do, what not to do. Don't forget that God is this.
Yeah, and it's worded so beautifully. It's almost like poems.
Literally. Yeah. Literally. That is exactly what it looks like. What it sounds like as well when you read it. Yeah. In the sense of like, let me see. is there like something that you never told anybody in the sense of like you never found a place where to tell it, or for example, an experience when you grew up, for example, that you thought that should I still be in church or should I just step out now?
Oh my goodness, that's a great question. It's like I've always thought about these things, but I've never actually said them to anybody. Yeah. So that's a great question. So yeah, like my entire experience in church, there has been one that was very pivotal. It actually but it influenced my parents most of all, and then me, to leave that church. Okay. And then eventually come back because, you know, God wanted me there, and like I can't just leave because I feel like it kind of thing. But it was just, again, with the scrutiny, and there was a point where like a particular person had scrutinized me and my little sister so bad, to the point where like my parents they always tell us to be strong, resilient, but they just saw how much it kept breaking us. And like your parents, they know you before you even say something, so they saw how it was like tearing us down, and like we were no longer excited to do the things that we wanted to do. And eventually when they had confronted this person, they completely acted innocent, like I didn't do that, and they just saw like, wow, like people can really be fake and
it is crazy because as us Christians, we're still the example for all people, right? But majority of the situations that we go through, it happens in church, which is crazy because it's like, bro, what are we doing? What's the whole point of us being Christians? At the end of the day, we're gonna talk about each other.
Yeah, and that puts a really bad, like, it puts a bad name on Christianity, and that's why people are like, oh, I don't believe in God. But it was a lot of the time, not all the time, but a lot of the time, it stems from a really bad experience in church.
Yeah, and it's crazy because there's a lot of youth that I know of that grew up in church, and because of bad experience, they no longer know about it. They no longer go to church. They say that we're like the most horrible things ever, this and that, just from a bad experience. And it's annoying because it's like, what was the whole point? Like, we're trying to show an example to all that, okay, it is great to be Christian, right? And it's okay as a youth person to grow up in a church and continue on and teach your kids and so on and so on. Yeah. Just for a bad experience that, if at the end of the day, when we think about it and construct the problem, it was very, very, very minimal.
It was very minimal, but it was just the way it just impacted, and the way they didn't stick true to their word. The same way that we teach ourselves to be, you know, we teach ourselves to be honest with each other and like brothers and sisters, basically. Definitely. It just made me think like, wow, like, and this person is still higher up necessarily in the church, as they say, and it just made me think like, wow, like, why am I doing this? I'm over here like breaking myself for these people, and they don't appreciate anything I do. They don't appreciate. Obviously I do it for God. Yeah, but if they're constantly like throwing at you,
and that's when we really, really, really have to understand the situation where we do something. Make sure you do it for God. Forget everybody else around you. Forget to please everybody around you, because in the end of the day, salvation is individually. Yeah. Number 2, you know that what you're doing is correct, and you know God is seeing you. You shouldn't feel intimidated by anybody else. No matter if they're higher than you, no matter if they have like bigger rules around it, forget that. Like, you know what you are in front of the eyes of God, that, you know, in front of God's eyes, per se. So we shouldn't feel like so intimidated by anybody. At the end of the day, we can't judge anybody. Yeah. But the one who judges is God. And then as long as God says it's okay, it's okay. If God says it's not okay, then you definitely know it's not okay.
Yeah, I learned that the hard way. Eventually, like, you know, that's where I had to like separate myself and be like, okay, if I'm thinking this, then I was I really doing it for God? So that's why I had to like step down, take some time for myself, and then realize like, okay, I can't just leave or like do whatever I want based on what people want from me. Okay. And then eventually, yeah.
All right, this could be one of the last questions. As a youth in church, I know you have a boyfriend, my boy Abe, right? What are the certain struggles you guys go through, like in the sense of like, it's certain things you guys, obviously we can't do certain things. Everybody knows the rules we can't do, obviously. That's understandable. But was there a situation where like you guys had to like understand a situation, or the introduction to both of you guys' parents, was it good? Like, how did that happen?
It wasn't even about he's laughing in the back because he knows. I don't think it was even about being Christian, but more like being a Hispanic woman. Okay. Like, that made it 10 times harder to even start a relationship in general. Yeah. Just the thought, just for my dad especially, for him to think that someone had a crush on me, it was like, no, absolutely not. How dare you? How dare you like my daughter? absolutely not. You're not good enough. So that took forever. It took like, I want to say 5 years.
5 years.
Before they were kind of comfortable with the idea of Abraham even being my boyfriend.
Yeah, for me, it's been, I'm 23 now. I didn't get my first girlfriend until I was like 21 or so, right? And I'm still with that same person. We've been together for 2 years, right? Oh. But I still haven't met her mother yet. We've been together for 2 years. She only met my mom and everybody else. But I haven't met nobody on her side, in a sense, except for her brother. I had a call with her father, though. So he's interested in meeting me. But he lives all the way, I don't know if it's Florida or PA. I don't know what it is. But I hope the relationship is, you know, la voluntad de Dios. And also, we can't get mad. If a certain thing from beginning a relationship and it's not la voluntad de Dios, don't be mad. God knows everything. And nothing happens for a reason. So it could be a chance as an experience, you know? You never know. I'm not saying that you guys are not going to be together forever. Si Dios lo permite, I'm going to be in that wedding, you know, you know, it's going to be beautiful. Another question before we end, just to tell, you know, the audience and stuff like that. What is something as a female you can tell to another female who practically, you know, wants to become a Christian or who already is a Christian, that specifically is a female, and is struggling through something? Like, what would you tell them?
Oh my goodness. From one female to another, it's hard. It's hard out here in this society. But ultimately, you know, God made you in his perfect image. And whatever you're going through, it will pass. And I know I was told that before and I didn't believe it. Because it feels like, especially when you're young, it feels like everything is the end of the world. Every little thing. And so the good thing is that we have more time than we even do life. And eventually things will pass. They always have to. Things will always pass. And there's always a promise and a plan. Regardless of whether you accept it or not, the plan is still always going to go through because it's God, you know. God keeps his promises and God makes sure that whatever needs to happen happens. And you kind of just have to, as hard as it is, you just have to hold on. Because it goes by real fast in a blink of an eye.
Definitely. Oh, well, thank you for being on the channel, Andrea.
Thank you for having me.
Especially, it was a great experience. Congrats being the first female on the channel, that obviously. So that's definitely an honor. Should have had a trophy for that. How you gonna call it?
One.
Yeah. But definitely, it was an honor. I'm gonna have you guys definitely back. I'm gonna have you back with the whole group. So eventually, when we plan that day perfectly, we could like make the scene, you know, a little bit better. Then we'll have you over again. So thank you again.
Thank you for having me.
No, definitely. And for those who are watching, hopefully, don't forget, please like, comment, share, subscribe. Comment down below. Let me know what you guys like to see in this channel. Do you guys like the previous videos, interviews we did here? And also, I'll leave her link down below. Follow her on social media. Follow Haven Worship. Follow me also on my social media and also the platform for social media, right? So thank you again, Andrea. Until next time. Something I will say, you guys. Y que ande sin Dios la cosa le sale cara. Peace.